So far, we have understood first two fundamental rights of part 3, that is right to equality and right to freedom. In this video, we will go ahead and understand the third fundamental right, that is right against exploitation. Ever since the beginning of the human race, from then till today, there has been exploitation with someone or the other. To prevent exploitation from society, the Constitution incorporated right against exploitation in fundamental rights. Right against exploitation is explained under two articles, that is Article 23 and Article 24. Article 23 talks about prohibition of human trafficking and forced labor. And Article 24 talks about prohibition of employment of children in factories, etc. Let's understand both the articles one by one. Article 23 contains two clauses. Clause 1 says, traffic in human being and begar and other similar forms of forced labor are prohibited, and any contravention of this provision shall be an offence punishable in accordance with the law. As the statement says, in any way if human beings are bought or sold or they are forced to work, then it will be an offence according to the law. See, in the given statement, three important keywords are mentioned. First, traffic in human being. Second, begar. And third, other similar forms of forced labor. Let's understand what kind of exploitation these three keywords talks about. First, traffic in human being. This keyword explains four types of exploitation. Number 1, selling and buying of men, women and children like goods. Number 2, immoral traffic in women or children that includes prostitution. Number 3, forcing a woman to become a Devdasi. Devdasi system was a religious practice whereby parents marry their daughter to a god or a temple in order to taking care of the temple, performing rituals and serve rest of their lives. These women also learnt classical Indian traditions like Bharatanatyam, Mohiniyattam, Kuchipudi and Odissi. At that time, Devdasi had a high rank and dignity in the society. But over the time, Devdasis were pushed into prostitution, and that's why the Devdasi system was banned. Apart from these three, slavery is also considered as human exploitation and is banned by the Indian government. After human trafficking, now let's understand the word begar. In simple words, begar means forced labor without payment. In earlier times, when zamindars used to lend money to their tenants and tenants could not repay the loans, then the zamindars used to force the tenants to work without payment or negligible payment. As it was human exploitation, so it was also banned. The third important keyword mentioned is other similar forms of forced labor, like bonded labor. The term forced labor means compelling or forcing a person to work against his will, either physically, legally, or by compulsion of economic circumstances. Physically means by threatening someone to work. Legally means forcing someone to sign a bond, like if any company make a bond with you that whatever happens, you will have to work for the company for the next 3 years. You can't move anywhere else. That will be a forced labor. And by compulsion of economic circumstances means, suppose if you are financially weak and you need money, and taking advantage of this, if someone is giving you a job at a low salary, then it will also be a forced labor. Now in this regard, some acts have been passed by the Parliament. They are Immortal Traffic Prevention Act 1956, Bonded Labor System Abolition Act 1976, Minimum Wages Act 1948, Contract Labour Act 1970, and Equal Remuneration Act 1976. Now, whatever we have just read has some exception which is explained in Article 23 Clause 2. Article 23 Clause 2 gives power to the state to impose compulsory service for public purposes, for example, military service or social service, for which the state may or may not pay. To understand, we can take example of Israel, North Korea, Sweden, Norway, etc. These countries impose compulsory military service for 1 or 2 years on both men and women. Though this has never happened in India, but it can be done if needed. However, imposing such service, the state is not permitted to make any discrimination on the basis of religion, race, caste, or class. So that's all about Article 23, that is prohibition of traffic in human being and forced labor. In the next video, we will cover Article 24, that is prohibition of employment of children in factories, etc.